Hi, my name is Edwin Bruno, CVO and CEO at Smart Africa Group, where we unlock people and organizations' growth. Today, I'm privileged to host Echo Podcast, whereby it's an executive podcast series whereby we unlock and we'll be doing discussion about innovation and technology. And today, I'm privileged to host one of Smart Africa Group directors, whereby he is a director of SmartLab, Mr. Larry. Larry, welcome to Executive Echo.
Thank you for having me, Edwin.
We know that SmartLab have been dealing with innovation. It's been one of the pioneers in the ecosystem. And since today our podcast is talking about innovation and innovation around the labs, so we feel privileged to welcome you, Mr. Larry. And maybe if you can introduce yourself so that our audience from Echo Podcast can actually try to understand who is Larry, what is Larry doing, and everything in between.
Thank you for having me, Edwin. So I had SmartLab, an innovation hub, a subsidiary of Smart Africa Group. But just to speak about a bit of my career journey to where I am until the fact that I'm actually in the innovation space, I'm usually fascinated with change and doing things in a new way. And this started way back during my when I was growing up and seeing my father doing business in a different way. And he used to do coffee business. And by then, the business was to buy raw coffee beans and take them to processors, take them to the stock market of coffee, and it's sold. But then my father saw a gap in cherry. Cherry is coffee beans, but those that are usually the raw ends that people usually don't buy. And that's when he started doing it differently. He saw the value in the cherries. He started buying cherries in mass production, and he then brought to the fact that the prices of cherry began to grow because of the production of cherries, and then even the market started seeing value in the cherry production. Then he started taking me into his business and seeing how he does the business models. Then I saw, okay, so there are different ways of doing different things, and still you can bring in value. Then when doing my university, during that I did engineering. I specialized in industrial engineering, where I did textiles. Most people, when they hear about textiles, they think of clothing.
Clothing, yeah. That's what
it's mostly what comes up in mind, but
yes.
Textile is very wide. What inspired me to do textiles, it was a professor called Professor Mike Campbell in the University of Dar es Salaam. He was the pioneer of textiles, and he came up with a very good story of how textiles change people's lives. And textile, not just as fabric, but things that are very well tailored, from just a simple yarn,
the details,
what we call, the simple yarns, the details from just a cotton fiber to what this cotton fiber could do, and things like Kevlar, where you get bulletproofs, things like, these days they fabricate human organs that can be replaceable. These are made from textiles. Airplane wings, the composite materials are actually coming in from textiles. So he started fascinating and said, okay, there's a new way of seeing things. So again, it's always about new things for me. Then I said, okay, let me jump into textiles. So during that journey, I learned a lot. We did a lot of projects then. And then started my career with in actually running some production lines in some industries here in Tanzania, but I was very privileged to work with experts from India that brought a lot of new technologies. And I worked in one of the most biggest projects that was done in UK, where they were fabricating the larynx. These are actually parts that you change when people have problems with their vocal cords. So we did that, and I saw okay, so people would think of textile as clothing, but we're actually using the same fibers to make new stuff. And that's why, and I kept doing that until this is where now the journey started changing. Around 2015, I was approached to actually join the army, and they needed experts in textiles. So I did, we were consulting. I had a team of other colleagues who were consulting for the army. It was quite a journey. And this is where I started seeing how innovation really needs not just new things,
Yeah.
but also leadership.
Yeah.
Because the leadership that brought in innovation, that wanted the innovation to come into the army,
Yeah.
were the ones who drove that vision and brought us to that as a team and said, you know what, we want the army to do things in a new way, and we want the Tanzanian army to also be, the defense forces to also have innovative solutions in how they do things.
Yeah.
So that's how we joined, and down the line, it's a long story, but down the line, during the COVID era, that's when I really now delved into products management.
Yeah.
And so since then, I started working fintechs. I worked in products development of various kinds, software as a service, very many other products that had digital aspects within it. And that's how my journey started in the innovation space and knowing how startups work, the business models, and things like that, and connecting both the new way of doing things to the old ways. And then I saw value with that. That's how I'm driving myself up the ladder of innovation.
I think, Larry, it's an interesting story and a journey with insights. With that story, it's bring a lot of, you can actually see details and the value differentiator in every industry. When you talk about, the cherry industry, the way there have been processes,
Yes.
up to the production. When you talk about, the fabrications, I thought maybe it's more about clothing, but I can see someone can innovate something around a bulletproof. I think it's coming from that. Someone can do that, but of course venture into innovation for medicine because the fiber can do that.
True.
And when you talk about, I think, military, most of the innovation actually starts from the military era. I remember us when we were studying the innovation of the internet. This guy called Steve Berners-Lee, the inventor of WWO, the internet, which the internet started actually from the army. I believe even sometimes when I watch movie and I see in the military they do XYZ, I know that thing. It's already existing. It's just it's not for public yet. And public, the internet and the innovation, some of it, even in transportation, you say like NASA going to the Mars, it's something which become commercial, but we know in the army they have a lot of innovation. So you are deeper understanding in that processes of the army. I know you guys, you are making it very private. We are not allowed to know the process, but there is a process, and it's all about how are we going to make that process as a commercial so that the mass and the community can actually venture into it. And of course, you talk about the COVID era, which within that, a lot of things have actually changed. People, they managed to change the way of thinking. When we say about digital, actually, I think COVID accelerated the digital and people accepting the change. Because sometimes change need to have a little bit of force.
Crisis.
A crisis.
Every crisis is where innovation comes
in between. And to talk about working with startup, product management, project management. And I think when you talk about startup, I understand especially on our continent, especially in East Africa, or we go deeper into Tanzania, it's something new. When something is new, I mean there should be some people which at least we need to unpack these different things. And I know, of course, SmartLab have been working, starting with the university, pushing the corporates also to coming in, doing accelerator, not just for impact, but also for business to have like a business continuity. And when you look back and when you look now and where we are going in terms of now the innovation, and you as a director at SmartLab working on the innovation lab, you have been interacted with the different sector and different collaborators. Where are we? Or maybe if you can give us a short story so that our audience, which they don't know anything, or maybe they have an idea about the Innovation Hub. What is Innovation Hub? Where are we coming? Where are we now? And what is the future for the next opportunities?
Yes. So if we may begin, it's simply by just even defining innovation by itself. It's way back since the 19th century. That's when innovation was part of of the talk of the town by then, where we saw in the US around Silicon Valley, that's where the growth of Silicon Valley. Simply, innovation is what I would term it in my way as a function of vision.
Yeah.
Creating capacities of doing new approaches, untested ways in solving old problems.
Yeah.
Old and new problems. So with that, innovation hubs came into the part that they were to create a platform to support. So innovation hubs basically these are physical places where people can actually go in and get support.
Yeah.
So in a matter of fact, innovation hubs are platforms that create, connect, and support both creators, innovators, researchers in actually getting new approaches of doing the new norm. Now, with that, I would say our ecosystem, the Tanzanian ecosystem, has come in from quite a long journey, and now we are seeing a lot of traction coming in. Our ecosystem is growing big times. There are a lot of innovation hubs now growing. The latest reports from the Tanzania Startup Association show that there are at least around 136 or 106, I think 136 innovation hubs and ecosystem support organizations that are already in present, and they're actually offering several services. Key features or the key objectives of these innovation hubs is to promote technology and technology transfer. And with that, there are a lot of other functions in between: the issues of talent, the issues of collaboration, outreaches, the issues of acceleration and investment. All these come in as part of hub services. So the hub ecosystem is growing, and we are seeing it having quite a good traction here in Tanzania now. Our fellows in Kenya are also growing. They have been thriving big times. Our investment funding is also, although last year's numbers were down, but we know that they're actually coming up. It's just a matter of time. It's always about the aspect of time. So in summary, innovation hubs are there to cater and support for the vision. As you have said, SmartLab actually key mission is to actually create, connect, and support these innovators in the ecosystem.
Yeah. And of course, we know most of our listeners, and especially for this podcast as an eco podcast, which will be speaking mostly with the executive, which means there are other people who want to learn and understand. Most of the people, and I understand from the listeners' point of view, when they hear innovation, when they hear hubs, the one thing which comes in their mind is Silicon Valley. But so now we are in Tanzania, or maybe we are in Africa, we're in East Africa. Do we need to go to Silicon Valley to be innovative? Or because I understand, even Silicon Valley is just a location like Tanzania. It was a place maybe just few people who believe in something, and maybe other people, they didn't see it, they created something. So for us in Tanzania, for innovators to believe that this is the Silicon Valley within the ecosystem, what kind of the area which they need to look into, and what are the opportunities? Because we have a lot of other innovators and entrepreneurs, they are listening to the cast, and they want to understand what is the innovation ecosystem and what are the opportunities which are there, and what they should be doing in order to join the likes of SmartLab.
Yes. So as I mentioned earlier on, several innovation hubs have focused in offering several aspects of services that are actually catering, as I said, to the building of the vision of an innovator. So the many areas that we are looking at, I'll give you a very good specific example coming in from SmartLab, is where we started to where we have gone to the number of services we're now providing. Is we started actually in the understanding of the ecosystem. The ecosystem includes both the service providers together with the startups ecosystem, and each one of them came up with different aspects of needs. But with them, there was a missing gap of knowledge or awareness of what innovation is. What are the features of innovations? Why should I turn my new approach called as an innovative approach or a disruptive approach. So we started out with doing a lot of outreaches by then, and we did a lot of awareness building by having university outreaches where we actually believe that that's where they are born. Ideas are actually coming in from universities, incubators that are coming in from that end. And after building that awareness, we started delving into one gap to the other. Yeah. Startups are now coming up, good founders are there, and good ideas are there. But now we need to teach them innovative leadership. With that, we started coming up with learning programs. So SmartLab has a department specifically for that, for upskilling. This is more on giving out new innovative ways of how you should do things. We train them on frameworks of a business model, how a disruptive business model works, how you would see, because you can't do a new thing with an old method, an old business model. You have to either employ a new disruptive business model, or you actually have to get in even to a new team of talents. Then from there, we went on to now supporting startups by having mentorship programs from the accelerator program. The accelerator programs are basically there to support these startups coming up in accelerating them from ideation towards an MVP and taking them to the market. Now, through that, there are many other services, mentorship, research, technology support, go-to-market support. All these are offered with innovation hubs in the accelerator or acceleration programs. Then the journey went on. The gap is still big. We see there are a lot of missing talents, job-ready talents. And with that, we had to evolve. How are we going to now fix this issue? Because we can't bring in investment as early as we still don't have the talents to actually execute the vision. So we also started talent programs where we connect. We bring in a pool of talented kids, talented individuals, and upskill them in the new ways of doing things, new frameworks. And from that, we then offer these to the corporates that are ready to innovate inwardsly. We offer them to the startups that are already in a mission to innovate. And then the gap keeps getting smaller. That's where investment also comes in. And I think this is also why our investment or funding area is still low, because the funding is directly proportional to the nature of skills that will drive the vision. So I think from that end, we would say these are the most common offers that are coming in from innovation hubs.
And I think you have explained very well in terms of the ecosystem, especially for our Tanzania ecosystem vis-a-vis the Silicon Valley one, which have been started many years ago, which are ahead. But of course, I think I've been seen as per the TSA report, it's actually accelerating our innovation for the same. Coming from where people at the first time, they didn't know what is accelerator, what is innovation lab. Now they do understand that. The corporate also, they didn't understand the innovation ecosystem. People thought like when you talk about innovation ecosystem and startup, it's just maybe the entrepreneur and donors. And they didn't see a commercial part of it. And I think the uniqueness of the contribution for SmartLab in the ecosystem is just to make that innovation commercial display out of it. And I remember us on SAG, one of the products which is hosting this Echo podcast, which is Riffly. It was an innovation which we had to make sure we are simplifying the distribution of newspaper, magazine, now audio, whereby what we are doing is looking on the industry of the media. And since now people have an access of mobile devices, mobile phone, computer, internet penetration, that means you don't need to sit and wait for your newspaper, or you don't need to sit and wait for opening a radio tune somewhere. That means with Riffly, you could actually download and read your newspaper, books, and listening to any cast like this, or even radio show at your own time.
True.
Yeah. So within that, when you talk about the commercial part, which is the business model, because the innovation could be innovating in terms of the product, but the main gap which most of the entrepreneur or the founder they're missing, it's now how are we converting that innovation into the business?
Yeah.
And converting into the business is what you talk about now, the skills gap, which the SmartLab now is what is doing. The skills gap in terms of how are we bringing the commercial people in order to unpack that product into business model. Business model could be maybe selling, maybe, subscription, maybe it's just incentive, or maybe it's a distribution per delivery, per network, and everything in between. So, Larry, when we were talking about, the SmartLab now is focusing and want to bring innovative learning, also want to give talents. What is the model of that? Are you guys, teaching that yourself? You have like a teacher in-house, or you are collaborating with a different expert on a different segment? And also the model of those talents. Do you have the CV? Are you doing everything? Or what is your differentiator between the talent part on both the learning, and how does it connect?
Thank you, Edwin. So I would say coming up with these programs for SmartLab is more of research and data. From the data that we gathered and had advanced them to actually coming up with a learning program together with the talent service, is because we wanted to become as innovative as possible to actually fill that gap.
Yeah.
And the ecosystem needs it. We're seeing that gap is growing hugely, especially in the talent and skills. As technology keeps advancing, skills are needed. We know that these days there's a lot of AI, and we don't get that in the universities. So we have to bring this to fruition and actually build people who are talented in AIs and everything.
Yeah.
So the way we do it is co-creation. Our innovative space is always open for co-creation.
Yeah.
We work with partners that are well eligible and well versed with the industries.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example from our learning department, the learning services that we are offering, the master classes together with the certifications. These are usually coming up from experts. We use experts in the industry to actually train people of such knowledge. Right now we have modules coming in from innovative leaderships, the sales craftsmanship. We are coming in with issues of product development in terms of innovative product development, how to become a product ops. People don't know about product ops. They know about product managers, product dev, what we call DevOps. All these are new talents and skills needed in the industry.
Exactly.
And we work with certified and actually business gurus in the industry to train our talents, and not just our in-house talents. We also use them to offer this to our corporate clients, but also we bring in we bring in the outside people to actually come in and get this knowledge and get certified.
Oh, okay. And now this expertise, when you teach them, you open them, because it's needed. This, as we say, we want to create the new Silicon Valley of ours. That means the talent need to be immersed around that. So all these trained startups, or all these trained and upskilled corporate, we believe now you have the base. How does it come into life? Is it the one which you are doing with the talent hire here at SmartLab? We're doing that.
So talent hire is where we began, and we see it evolving. We want to actually evolve it into a new way of doing it. And how are we doing it now is we already had a pool of these talents, but now we have gone further. We are upskilling them ourselves, and then connecting them to the actual clients that need these talents. And from that, we have used several models in testing how effective would this be. Because why would somebody say, okay, why should I go through SmartLab to get a business or a job with maybe, let's say, our greatest good incumbent client, Vodacom? Why would you pass through us? It's because one of the things is we help you in understanding the vision of that company.
Yeah.
We co-create these talents together with the client.
Yeah.
So with that collaboration, we are usually part of the vision of innovation inside the client's entity. And this is how we have seen it effective. And it's not just about giving you that talent. It's more of building that partnership with you in evolving your products, evolving your customers and exceptions in terms of upskilling these talents. This has also added into retention. We see that the retention is usually high in that terms. So those are type of the models we use. Yeah.
I think right now it's an interesting time. Especially the likes of SmartLab now trying to make sure it's covering from the, from the workshop and the training which you are doing for corporate and the ecosystem, and of course to gather those talents. I can give you a story. I remember 7 to 8 years back, or maybe 7 to 8 years back. So we were trying to look in terms of we wanted to create a product, which this is the one we are talking, Rifali. Back in the days, used to be called in paper. And based on my understanding on the international product and the way things are done in the US and in India, the main gap was there was a lot of products, but people were letting the developer to do the product from the briefing up to the output. Yeah. There was no processes. And the process is, how are we going to make the user feel the simplicity of the solution and not to interact with a lot of button or things which are not appealing. And on the product part, there is a process and there is something which we call UI UX, which is like an architecture of seeing the house before even building it. Because even in Tanzania, for the construction, people say like, I want the house with 5 rooms or whatever. But they don't know that they need to involve an architect to do that. So even on the product and in technology, it's that. And the person who is doing that on the digital product, it's called UI UX. So at that time, I was looking to get a UI UX. You don't believe, in Tanzania, 10 years back, there was no one doing UI UX. Yeah. I was even Googling, I was even doing whatever research on LinkedIn. No one was telling that I'm doing UI UX.
Our education system doesn't support that.
Exactly. And what I did is I went to our near neighbor, which is Kenya, and for us, we brought the first experienced UI UX person. His name was Victor Shiwani. And then when he came here into the market, we had to make sure he unveiled of what is UI UX. And we had a lot of designers, but the designer was doing more of, normal design, the print design, even the digital design, we are the one pushing it. And then after we launched the M-Paper, now Rifali, the way the app was crispy clear to the user, it's when people say, actually, in every product, we need an architect. So we set the benchmark till today. And then fast forward 8 to 10 years later now, when you go into searching of UI, UX, and product designer in Tanzania, now you can actually find 100 of them.
Yes.
That is to say, this is the job now we are looking to see SmartLab are doing. There is a lot of, even at that time, we were searching for product managers. What we were getting was project managers. Product manager and project manager, quite different people. Yeah. So it's actually a new wave whereby now with the combination of AI, we'll need also people to immerse with the tools and simplicity, the ways of working and processes. So we are looking forward to see SmartLab collaboratingly partner with the people experiencing in the country and also to borrow some, idea and training from the other country. And because right now you have seen the innovation ecosystem in terms of startups and corporate, they're starting venturing on creating products in country. But the biggest problem we have right now in the ecosystem, even when you look in terms of the TSA report, it's the learning, or it's the skill gap. You'll see even maybe in banks, in telco, it's the same people. They're just roaming around. But there is a new breed which need to be trained so that we can have massive, whereby the corporate can get the talent,
Definitely.
the startup can get the talent, and not the corporate just getting people from the startup and let the startup die, even if they have already venture and raised the fund. So I think SmartLab doing the learning and talents, that's where the gap is. And we believe now with that, maybe there will be the new wave, and the investors will be coming in and everything in between.
Definitely.
So the environment to be ready. So maybe the last thing for when we are talking about the innovation and the hubs, what is it now for Tanzania as an opportunity for both corporate, startups, innovation ecosystem in terms of even the donors and development partners? And what is next for SmartLab?
Yeah. So let me just go a little bit back to where you were speaking of how you came up with M-Pepper by then.
Yeah.
I think one of among the disruptive innovations and use cases we can use to date in Tanzania, M-Pepper was among them.
Yeah.
And this is because you just didn't disrupt the technology part or come in with a new way of having magazines on digital platform, but also the business model behind it.
Yeah.
So every digital innovation has to have an innovative business model. You actually explained the way M-Pepper changed to Reefly and the offers that Reefly are coming up with. All this we see has changed the way things has been done, even in the business models. How you have positioned the value propositions to the client and also to the customer, the end users of Reefly, are seeing it quite differently from how it is being used. This takes us back to way when IBM came up with mainframe computers.
Very true.
Mainframe computers were actually sold in hundreds a year because they are actually very expensive. To create, expensive to operate. I remember when I was reading about the history of mainframes, PhD holders were the ones operating mainframe computers.
So zeros and ones.
Until when other entities came in and started doing mini computers. And mini just didn't mean it's because of the size of it. But then mini computers were then sold in thousands in a year. And so we started becoming simpler and affordable. Because the mainframes were at least $1 million US, towards the mini computers were around half of that. Then IBM had to disrupt their business model, not to do the same thing they did with mainframes. When business was starting to go down, they had to come up with a new business model that was disruptive, from the value proposition to the profit margins, the way they created their profit scape. They came up with personal computers. Now they are wafer doing chipsets and everything coming in. So we would say we need with every innovation, with every technology that comes in, you also need a disruptive business model. Now that took us from where we were just doing accelerator programs and events and all this. That's when we started seeing we also need to tweak a bit in our model as a hub in order to gain that sustainability, to actually fill another gap of talents. And as you have mentioned, our education system does not offer the right, let's say UI, UX, product managers. They were not there. I struggled looking for a mentor in product management until when I had to have people from outside who were mentoring me in product management and development. Then, so with that model that we came up with, it's us supporting creating those new talents. So we are in a position now, we could say we are better off offering this, and with collaborations with the end users, the clients, we are in a much better position, pivotal position, to actually offer you a tailored service, not just a talent, an upskill tailored service. And this also is about upskilling the executives within those corporate clients. That is also something we are doing. But then you also mentioned about so what's next in the ecosystem, the challenges we're facing? Innovation hubs are facing a lot of challenges. Biggest among all is the financing. Financing has always been hard, but this is always, I would say it's not something that you can end in a day, but it needs us to become more creative with our business models. and creating offers that are actually solving people's problems, not just not things that we think in the boardroom. We need solutions that are actually solving the amount of community problems we see now. And so that is one. The financing part is really challenging, but it's also something we can solve by collaboration, where we can also take out some overhead costs and actually provide more value to our clients. And then we're also seeing hurdles with the regulatories that are actually affecting our clients, because as an ecosystem, we need to grow together. So if it's already affecting your client, it's also affecting us. So we're in a space of, through our events and outreaches together with collaboration, we are seeing that with we can face and work together in creating policies. As now we know the Tanzania startup policy is coming up. We also know that Tanzania hubs are also going to have an association, a collaborative association. Now they would have a platform to speak, a platform where they could create new norms of things. So with this is another hurdle we are facing, but mostly talent is another big gap. Talent retention, as you've said. Few talents that are always roaming in everyone. So let's say today I'm with SmartLab. I'm not saying I'm leaving, but I'm in the near future in growth. It's usually around the same ecosystem where somebody will always be jumping to. And so we need to build those talents together. We don't need to keep using the same ones, and we won't be sustainable in that.
And I think to our listener, what Larry is trying to say is on our innovation ecosystem, because the innovators, they are the one disrupting the ways of working. They are coming up with new solutions, which means new solutions need new thinking. That means if that's a challenge in terms of same people going around, to the same kind of unlocking the same thing, that means it's an opportunity from our graduates, from the people who are actually on a different organization, to start learning and to start being skill ready based on what's coming. When we talk about product to projects or project to product, innovation ecosystem itself, like even if you're a finance person, how are you going to fit yourself and fit into the new fintech, the new ways of transfer, receiving, and managing money? Not just a normal balance sheet, credit and debit and everything in between, and Forex in between in terms of exchange, because now you'll be receiving and transferring money on different countries. So with this, I see the hubs are creating a lot of opportunity for people to upskill themselves. That means instead of sitting and say like, I'm not being employed, or I'm not employable already, that means it's more of how are they going to join SmartLab Learning and be part of the talent pool, so that the corporate and other collaborator, they can fit in. So maybe one more thing, because now people have been here a lot about, SmartLab with the activities. Where are they going to find you? Are they have to come physical, where, or maybe they have to, because it's digital, we believe it will be more of, is there a website, a social channels, and what they should be searching when they get into your website before you closing?
Well, thank you, Edwin. The best way I would say is we are building something very, something that is going to be very outstanding. People should be on the wait and the lookouts. We are going to launch a new platform where you would find all these learning programs, and where you could just get to learn and apply, and you get to advance yourself. As you've mentioned, there is really key needs of advancing ourselves. The way technology is moving so fast, and we need to advance ourselves in areas of AI, innovative leadership, in areas of the new ways of selling. And because at the end of the day, it's business. You need to learn these attributes. You need to have these skills. Put yourself ahead. Always staying ahead is a key. So we are going to be very loud about it. You'll hear us in all our digital platforms.
I can't wait.
We'll use hybrid models where we'll have online, but also we'll have physical trainings for both corporate executives together with individuals who want to just upskill themselves. This is something we are coming up with, and let's have our fingers crossed and we would see.
And of course, as a Executive Echo podcast, because we are going to sit and set a trend sitting together with the corporate leaders and innovative leaders, we are going to somehow tell them about SmartLab so that they will be able part of the change. So as an innovative leader, leading the innovation, working together with startup, corporate, learners, innovative partners, investors, what is the one word you want to leave them today?
One word. That's a bit tricky, Edwin, because as much as innovation is vision, but we also need to understand that the aspect of having a vision and driving it is actually two different things. You need to have much capacity in creating frameworks that will drive that vision. Perseverance is key.
Yeah.
Perspective and perseverance for me is how you see things and how you'll persevere doing it. So I think for me it's two words, not just one.
Thank you very much, Larry, for being our guest today at Echo Podcast. We'll also like to thank SmartLab for allowing you to be here, because we know you guys are very busy. As an Echo Podcast, we have been sponsored by Rifali, whereby Rifali will let people and allow them to read newspaper, magazine, books, and of course now to allow people to hear different podcasts, and of course with a lot of series from other leaders as well. We would like also to thank our production studio, Smart Studio, which the Smart Studio are content creator, and they're setting trend in terms of production from visual, production from TVC, production from, audio, like these different setups.
Telling the stories of brands.
Telling brand stories and telling innovators' story to allow our listeners, of course, to listen the same. We like also to thank Smart Africa Group for also being part of the sponsor. And I would like to thank myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Edwin.